Hey, you. Before we talk about who is coming to the podcast today, I would like to say that now you can give your feedback in voice to the podcast. Just go to twowordsart.com, number 2wordsart.com/podcast. You'll see a SpeakPipe feature there if you scroll down to the bottom, so you can actually record your feedback to the podcast. I would love to play here. So just go to the website and just leave us a feedback. I also would like if you could give us a review at the Apple Podcast. It really helps us spread the word. You can give us 5 stars and write something, and I would love to read here in the podcast as well. Let's go to our guest today. We have Izzy, who is a graduate in FBA in 2001, took her journey to design and brand strategy. She's a brand designer from IP Design, a studio offering graphic design and brand strategy. IP Design is also her company. When we recorded, Izzy was in the process of rebranding, so in the podcast she's mentioning to get in contact with to do a session, but now you can just DM her directly on her Instagram or at design_IP or via her website. And I'm gonna have all this in the notes. Few things that are coming up for her. She'll be hosting a workshop for the professional art practice students at Ottawa, University of Ottawa, and how to be best presented themselves as an artist. She's also in the process of getting her brand architect level C certification alongside with Martin Neumeyer and Andy Starr, the highest certification offered at the moment from level C. I think you're going to love the conversation. I had many aha moments in this conversation about branding, and I think it's important for all of us that are trying to get our business. Doesn't matter if you're artists or not, branding is really important, and she make it really simple to understand. So I hope you enjoy the podcast.
Welcome to the Artistically You podcast, where mixed media art is a place for all. Here, we are going to talk about art as a mindful practice, connect with our creativity, and embrace curiosity. This is your host, mixed media artist, Jana Oliveira.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad we got to talk today. So exciting.
Hey. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, first tell people what you do.
It's like the $1 million question these days.
I know.
So I'm Isabelle. I am a graphic designer and I am transitioning or adding is the right word for it. Brand strategy to my practice, because it's always better to have a good foundation when designing brand identities, to have a solid strategy.
Right.
And yeah, the strategy just make sense. Like through my business journey. So that's what I do. I help businesses look good, essentially.
That's a good thing. And I get to know Izzy because we had a fabulous art talk. So if you are not sure what I'm talking about, me and my friends, Mazarine and Marina, that are both artists, we have this art talk that we do between our accounts every 2 weeks. And we talk between ourselves and sometimes we have guests. And Izzy came to us to talk about branding, and it was so huge topic that she came twice. And I had to watch them again with my notebook and take notes. And it was so good, so much value. So I would highly recommend. We're going to do a little episode today, but of course we cannot cover everything. But I would encourage you also put the links in the notes of that Instagram talks that we did. And I would encourage you highly to check that out. So because I invited you, because you already have experience, because you worked with our friend Mazarine doing her whole brand for her website and everything. And when you talked to us on the art talk, you gave fabulous tips and tricks about branding. So I wanted to do this podcast here, the basic stuff for people who have no idea how a person like you could help them and what brand it is and why is this important. I think that's the main questions that people keep asking all the time. So let's get it started first. When we talk about branding, what does that exactly means other than our logo?
So technically a brand isn't a logo. A brand is, from my Marty Neumeyer's definition, a brand is somebody's gut feeling about you, if you have a personal brand or a business. So essentially, a brand lives in somebody's tummy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
um,
that's a confusion, right? I did
mhm.
that because many people confuse. They think when they say, "Oh, you have to do better your branding," and they think, "Oh, I have to get a new logo."
No, so that's it. Like the logo is part of the brand
Hmm.
because it's how you represent yourself, but it's a tiny, tiny piece of it. The
Yeah,
full
for
brand
sure.
is the whole 360 is how you present yourself like to people, like when you're in like a networking event. A brand is how you talk on social media, like your caption. A brand is like your website and how it navigates, like not necessarily just the design of it, but how you bring people into the journey.
Right,
Having a solid brand pulls people in and you create your audience that way.
right.
And that would be the biggest, and maybe I'm like jumping ahead here, but it's the biggest differentiator between branding and marketing.
Yes.
Marketing, you push, push, push information to people.
Hmm.
And branding pulls people in.
Hmm.
They both need to work together,
Hmm.
like they're sisters, because when they work together, then you have the pull and you have the push, which means you have that full circle, which will create a full communication with your audience.
That is so great. I know you have been working with creatives, and
Mhm.
I think we kind of have a lot of difficulty in that. We know why we paint, and we know why we do things, but it's hard that expression to tell people to, hey, this is why I welcome you here, and this is
Mhm.
why I do these pieces, for you guys. It is
Mhm.
it is a hard connection to make. And another thing that people have is between personal branding and the regular branding.
Yeah. Okay. So, first question, I think artists or creatives have a very hard time defining their own brand because they're so immersed in it. And it's really hard to look at your blind spots or even really like take a good look at yourself on how you're communicating and like what's the purpose. Um, and that's why, I mean, that's why you would want to work with a brand strategist because
Hmm.
that person will
Direct
ask you the
you,
right
guide you.
question.
Hmm.
Exactly. Like ask you the right questions, like to make sure that, the core values are strong and then that the mission is aligned with your core values, that your vision too is aligned with the core values and what are the goals? Like what are you trying to achieve? Um, and that's something, it's the triangle that I talk so much like during the lives, right? Um, and then the second question.
It was personal branding and regular branding.
Oh, that's right. That's what you're right. So yeah, it is very different because I would say that the full branding is more so for business, like if
Hmm.
a big business when there's a lot of people, but that does not mean that an artist can't operate under like a business name.
Hmm.
Um, and we talked about Banksy for like an example because he's
Hmm.
staying anonymous and who knows, like maybe it's a collective. Banksy may not be like a one person, but it's working and their positioning is brilliant because it's all about the mystery and like the
Hmm.
political like graffiti and stuff. Um,
Something that is maybe easier for people also to connect is Sia, right? The singer
see,
Sia. She never shows her face, right? But she has
yeah,
a whole branding with that hair that she uses and the whole thing.
that's it. So that would be her personal branding, but
Hmm.
it also it's also like her business brand technically because there's a
Yeah.
full like crew of people that works behind her.
Yeah.
it's really hard to define like exactly where like the line is drawn because they really dabble into one
Hmm.
another. For
Yeah.
example, Steve Jobs and Apple, right? Like
True.
Steve Jobs
So true.
was the thing Apple, and even though he has passed on, like we still
So we still,
associate
yeah.
with Steve Jobs now to the Apple products.
Hmm.
Steve Jobs had a very strong personal brand, right? Like always wearing black, very serious, very focused.
The kind of
Um,
jeans he wore and the kind of black shirt also. He always turtlenecks and always long
that's it.
sleeves.
And it's not just about how like what he was wearing. I think it was also how about he was interacting. Just like, interacting with his team, interacting in public. Um, just how he was like
True.
overall. Um, but then there's also Apple that the like it's about the product. So yes, like they kind of dabble into one another, but
Hmm.
then Apple is all about the technology, the simplicity, the minimalist like look.
Yeah, but they do also the two things because they're very good at marketing. And we were talking
Oh,
about the
absolutely.
difference between them. So you can see clearly their side of what we wanna people feel is one
Hmm.
thing. They talk about that all the time, right? When they have their Apple events, you can see they use some words to catch you and hypnotize you. But also they have the marketing side and they are a machine on that, right?
Yeah, they are. And I think that because they have really good foundations on their branding, that's when the marketing becomes really strong because it's easy to offer a world
Mm.
when you're very sure about where you stand as an individual or a business. So basically the brands is not just about like the product, how it looks and everything. It's also about how does it make me feel?
Mm.
Like when I buy an iMac or an iPhone or
Yeah.
an Apple Watch, how does it make me feel?
Mm.
And the way that they're marketing is all about that. They're
Mhm.
offering a status and they're offering almost like an identity that comes
Yes,
with like their business.
they totally
That
got me.
yeah, oh, same.
I am a Apple nut.
Oh, me too. Like my name should be spelled with a small I, capital S, Isabel. That's how
Yeah.
I am. Like, yeah.
So I think that is so important when you say, we should talk about and express to people the benefits, right?
Mhm,
The benefits are important because I think sometimes as artists, we talk about how that may make me feel to paint, but we
mhm.
don't talk about the benefits of that person have that pain.
That's it. Yeah.
And I
It
think that is something that
stops.
has to change a little bit, right? If you want to do good branding, right?
Yeah. So so that's the thing. Like I think that and I have a visual background. Like I have my BFA from Ottawa U. So I acknowledge in this world and I know that when you create, there's like it's very it's about you. It's about a subject that matters to you that you're trying to discover like all the underlayered meaning of that subject. But you also need to think about the audience if your goal is to sell the art. Because the art experience does not stop when you're done painting or you're done like photographing or sculpting.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
true.
So that's why it's important to think which emotion or which feeling or what am I trying to do to put out into the world after this? And who will be intrigued by this? So that's when we go in. How do we define the audience and who are you making your art for? Again, if the purpose is to sell.
Ah, I love it. I love it. You understand so well. I love it. So
Thank you.
let's recap for, obviously not everybody that is going to be hearing this saw our art talk.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, we talked briefly about this. We have the triangle that has the basis of the branding. So can you
Mm-hmm.
talk just about what they are? We're not going to have time to talk, individually about them here today. Certainly that is something that we could talk about later. But just the principles of what it is that you can start thinking about what you need to build. That is that triangle we call.
Yeah. So I would say like where to start for artists would be to define the core values. The
Mhm.
core values are why are you doing what you do besides making money?
Yes.
Because then it's very easy every time you want to take maybe a new direction or you want to try maybe a new product line, let's say prints or books or workshops, whatever you're thinking of doing, ask yourself, is it cohesive with my core values?
Right.
When doing this, am I reinforcing my brand or am I diluting it?
So first, know your core values. That is
Mhm.
kind of the base, right?
It's the base.
Yeah.
That's where
So,
I would start personally. There's
okay.
multiple ways of doing it
Yeah, yeah,
because it's
yeah.
not
Yeah.
branding is
Just
no template.
right.
But
Just
yeah.
we are setting here just some easy things just so people can
Mhm.
start thinking about that if they never heard about branding or if
Mhm.
they want to get better at, branding themselves. So first is your core value. And that is so, so important because I think I had this issue and I actually did a session with Izzy and was so important for me because she helped me. Okay, because I know why I paint, right? I know what I feel, but it's so hard for you to put out there,
Mhm.
right? And I'm going to talk about this at the end, why it's important to talk with someone that does branding. But think about, if you're listening, watching this, think about your core. Why
Mhm.
you're doing this? What do you want people to get from this? What is your intent other than just, I want to make money?
Mhm.
If you just want to make money, so you're listening to the wrong podcast.
Yes, and I think that it just becomes hard, and I like you will see it even businesses, and you probably have like entrepreneur friends
Hmm.
out there that will say, "Oh yeah, I'll try this," and they have no passion, and it's just about money. Most of them probably failed or will fail, and not that I'm wishing anything negative on anyone, but it, it's so hard to make it out
You
there. It's like,
you can connect. Today is all about connection.
mhm, mhm.
And the core
Yeah,
value is part of that connection.
oh, absolutely.
This is what I want you to
Mhm.
receive other than just pay me, you know, and get this art at home. So okay, so we have the base core value. What is next that you need to know?
You need to establish like what's your mission. Like, so basically, the mission is what are we committing to in order to achieve the vision for the future? And the vision would be where does our brand aspire to go? What does it aspire to be? And what's the impact that it's going to have?
Wow. So it's a lot of thinking, right?
It's a lot of thinking. It's not
It's a
something
lot
you
of thinking.
eliminate. Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking about myself. I've after we talked and keep saying I'm gonna talk about this a little bit. I was so overwhelmed because I thought that in a good way, because I thought, oh my gosh, I found finally this kid had birthed me. Because I was feeling so stuck. Because again, we know these things, we know.
Mhm.
But now it comes my homework. I still have to sit down and reflect on the things we talked about and reflect on this exercise. Because it's up to me, it's not up to the branding person, right? I have to know. They don't know for me. So
Mhm.
I have to know. So I still have to sit and I'm separate a day that I don't have recordings or things to do that I can just put my incense and just think about it, right? It's so important, that second. And it ties with the core values, right?
It's actually the mission and vision is supporting the core
It's
values.
supporting that. Yes,
Mhm.
totally makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Mhm. Hence
And
why the triangle, sorry, like the core values would be at the top. In
mm-hmm.
the middle is the mission and vision, and at the bottom are the goals.
Okay. So just a little bit still on the mission. What this says to me also is that it's important to look ahead, right? Okay, I found my core value, what I want the person to get. But I want to know, okay, what is my mission in this earth? What do I want to bring good to people other than
Yeah.
that, right? And I think
Yeah.
that is the way that we as artists or any business, if you're listening to this and you're not an artist, is that you can think about how can you help people, right? Maybe you
Mhm.
can tie the things that you like and you are doing other things, right?
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
I think everything works together. So we already talked about. So the last, which is the base of the triangle, are the goals.
Mhm. So basically, the goals will also support the
Mhm.
mission and vision. And then that's it. Again, mission and vision will support the core values at the top. When you all put it together, that's basically the good foundation for your business,
Mhm.
personal branding or business branding.
And also the goals, I think, are like, okay, I know my core value, I know my mission. How do I get to work?
That's it.
Right?
Yeah, the goals is actually on the shorter term.
Mm-hmm.
They can change because once you achieve one of those goals, well, you're closer to the impact that you had in your vision and the way of in your mission on trying to achieve in the future,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's why the goals, it's recommended that you make a list that the goals that would be achievable for 1 to 5 years.
Mm.
And then the mission and vision would be to 5 to 20 years. So you hit it off like perfectly early. You say what's for longer term. And the core purpose does not change.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you want it to be like wide enough or generic enough to be able to like always feed into that.
You know what I imagine? I actually got an app for my iPad after we talked. Like, I imagine this being a mind map because I'm very
Oh,
visual.
yeah.
So you
Mhm.
can basically create a mind map with that. What is your core, your mission, and your goals? And so when you have that work, and again, this work is not easy. It's not gonna be in one day. It is a
Nope.
process.
Mhm.
I know people that many years after I learned about this, I'm like, this person doesn't have a core value. I don't get
Mhm.
it, right? So it is work, but it's work that is worth it, and it's gonna
Mhm.
differentiate us from other people, right? So
Mhm.
in terms of okay, we did that. Now we can touch these things in everything we have, right? Website, Instagram, starting to put this triangle in all the platforms or spaces that we are. Is that correct?
That's it. Because again, like the copy that you would maybe hire a copywriter for on your website, you can say, here are my values, like my core purpose.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm trying to achieve. This is the impact that I want. And this is the goals. Now, can we write something that's aligned with this?
Mm-hmm.
And even in the way that you present the work, like you could say, like presenting your artwork and like you, it was like related to mental health. So it's like art for mental health. Like it creates like this universe because you
Mm-hmm.
always know what it ties into and it makes it somewhat easier once it's labeled or written
Mm-hmm.
down or like
And also, you
yeah.
get noticeable and people get to know you. I mean, we just talked about
Mhm.
Apple and we just talked about brands like Nike. Why do we know these brands? Because they are consistent on their message. They have
Mhm.
a message. Nike, who doesn't know what my Nike says? Just do it.
Mhm. Just do
It's
it.
kind
Yeah,
of
that's
saying,
it.
Don't procrastinate. Do it. You can do it. Just do it. Just go there and, do your thing.
Mhm.
It's the difference between you and others. So something that I wanted to put in recording here, because I see many artists having these issues, is that
Okay.
this issue in particular, and it bothers me a lot. When you see an artist that have an Instagram, they can even sell pretty well, but they don't have a website.
Mm.
So tell us a little bit, how is that important for your brand?
Well, so I would put it in a way that's more about owning the content. Because we all went through it when there was that big Facebook and Instagram
Which was
shutdown.
not the first one, by the way. This was just a
Yes,
longer one.
yes,
And it's
and
not going to be the last.
it's not going to be the last. And now Facebook just changed to Meta
Meta.
Diverse. So yeah, so
Who
there's like
knows what's coming up?
who knows what's coming up. So the content that you put out there is not yours. Like when it's on platforms like this,
Mm-mm.
the website that you own, you control.
Mhm.
And it's yours and it's
Yep.
your intellectual property. It's your
Mhm.
copyright. So it's important, I think, also to
It's a
have this
house.
space.
It's
It
a
is a
house.
house. It is a
Yeah,
house.
this is your
Uh,
house.
mhm. I would say that social media is a funnel to bring people to your website.
Right.
And to pique some interest and maybe a way to communicate with them on a regular basis,
Right.
but not like you want to have like the what's important on your website. And like there's also limitations, like Twitter, for example. There's not a lot that you can say. So it's good to have a
Mhm.
blog. It's good to, like
Yeah, like, for
portfolio and stuff like that.
example, I do the podcast, right? So people may say, well, but what if the host dies, or I don't know, Spotify dies? I have these recordings. I
That's it.
still can load them to my website. They are mine. I'm just hosting at these places, but I can put anytime on my website. So then my content is not lost. All these people that
That's
talk
it.
to me, the content is not lost. So
Mhm.
I think it's so important. We still see so many people that solely sells on Instagram, and not just Instagram. Etsy. How many
Let's
people
see.
sell on Etsy and don't have a website?
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
important, because how two people are going to know more about you? Like, for example, I love to buy at Etsy. I buy at Etsy, of course. I want to help small businesses, especially women. There's a lot of women selling there. But I feel like I don't know anything about them. Sometimes I try to see if they have
Mhm.
an IG or something. Most of them sometimes have IG which are not updated, which shocks me. How can you sell here at Etsy and don't have an updated, Instagram? At
Mhm.
least to have some contact. If you don't have a website, at least to have, showing your product. It's very common, guys.
Mhm.
If you think about on Etsy, it's more common than not. Um, because they so rely on that traffic from Etsy that they think, oh, I don't need, right?
I think,
But like
yeah.
on my website, people can email me directly if they don't want to, go through Facebook or Instagram, whatever. They can email me directly. They have the contact there. It's so important.
Mhm. And I think you also like touched on something very important here is that you said you want to have access to their content and get to know who they are. The trend right now is transparency. So
Yes.
people want to have access to information at all times and they want to know exactly what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
to see if you're relevant. So
Yes.
it is important to put yourself out there, whether it's on Etsy, Instagram, your website, just give something that is interesting to your audience so they can feed off of that. And I think specifically for artists, because whenever personally I'm buying like a piece of art or print or something like that, like I want to know what the intention behind and if the intentions are something that's completely unrelated to what I'm going through in my life at the moment, well, I won't want to buy because it's not aligned, right? Because the art is supposed to make me feel something, which is circling back to what we talked like at the beginning. Um, so by putting this content, yes, it is harder to update the website regularly, but that's why then you would use social media, and you can easily now put in some plugins in your website to have like the social media
Yeah.
feed in there.
Mhm.
Same thing with YouTube videos. Like there's so much that can be done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, as part of these basics here, then now I think we get to that part of the logo because I think after you do all this job, you reflect on this, you know what kind of message you want to, you know what is your goals, you know what is your vision for yourself.
Mhm.
Then you can think about logo and colors, right?
That's it. Because without knowing, there's actually some hidden messages in the type of typography that you use, how you
Mm-hmm.
dispose at
Mm-hmm.
like everything, the colors that you also choose,
Right.
um, even like the type hierarchy, like how do you adjust everything together, the type of images, if you're using icons, and like the list can go on and on. How you represent yourself visually should be aligned with like your brand foundations. And unfortunately, a lot of people will jump ahead and not do the strategy. And that's why you
Mhm.
see a big disconnect.
Yeah. This is so true and so good. So good. Because I think the first thing, I did a mistake too, Izzy. The first thing we think, okay, I'm going to open a business when I had my Photoshop stuff is let me create a logo,
Mhm.
right? It's the
Yeah,
first thing. You don't think about any of the message, but hey, that's why we're here educating people. But
that's it.
we want not just, I think sometimes people like branding, they think it's like, oh, just big businesses can have branding.
Uh-uh.
No, it's today more than ever. It's so important. I mean, come on, how many artists, how many, I don't know, clothing companies? I mean, Apple really has a bunch of competitors, people that flat face do things just like them, right?
Mhm.
Like how many AirPods, fake AirPods you see around?
That is so true.
Just go to Amazon, right?
Mhm.
So of course we have the quality and stuff, but how people gonna know about equality, right?
Mhm.
How they gonna know about that? So that's what we wanted today here to, I think you are very good to explain that is how it's not just about the business code stuff. Today is more about who you are as a business and how can you
Mhm.
attract people with that.
Mhm.
So you were saying that sometimes you get to the point when you have to work with someone. So when we know we need that help, or
Oh,
how the help is good, if you can, I know it's a big topic, but
it is a big topic. I
let me say
think,
like this: like, what's the kind of help that you can offer?
oh, well, I think just making sure that everything is cohesive, right? And kind of
Mm-hmm.
have like an overview, like even it could be at the very beginning when you want to start, and it's just like kind of establishing the foundations to say, okay, like this is where I'm going to go, and then the vision is very clear, and most likely the growth of the business will be smoother and
Mm-hmm.
will actually like boom like
Mm-hmm.
more.
There is different kinds of help that you can give people, right? So let's talk about the difference here because there is the kind of thing you did with me, but there is a whole package. So just explain first what kind of package we are talking about when a person says, okay, I wanted to do my whole branding.
Mhm. So that's the thing. It's very hard to say there's like defined package because each business or person's problem is very, very different. So that's even something I would be cautious about if you're like you want to work with a designer or like a brand strategist. If they
Hmm.
have like packages on their website, like that's probably a start point, but it can like differ because again, like your problem
Everybody
may
needs a
be
different, yeah.
that's it. And brand strategy is no template. Hence
Mhm.
why having a package for that is hard. Like I don't even know where I would start actually, because there's so many variables. Um, Hence why I like to have a discovery call with people first, just so we talk about like the problems and the goals and make sure that the goals and expectations are very, very clear. And then from that, that's when I can say, okay, like here is your package. So it's like a personal package, I guess, per client.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so it could be from like the very beginning, like clean slate. Um, we do everything. It could even be let's do a rebrand. Let's look at what you have and what can be improved for the next
The
step.
logo as well, the colors,
Everything, like
everything.
design wise. Yeah, that would be the visual identity of it and the brand strategy that comes before, because obviously to have the foundations before you go into like the
Mhm.
design phase.
Mhm.
Um, and we've talked mostly about brand strategy here, not about visual identity execution. They're very different. So I might
Mhm.
have to come back to talk about that if you want,
Yeah.
Jennifer.
Yeah. There's a lot to
Yeah,
talk about.
there's a lot to talk
But
about.
another service that you do what you did with me is um maybe if you don't have the means or cannot do the whole package right now or revamp your whole website, don't feel intimidated. We still have hope here. You can do a call with Izzy.
Yeah.
And um I did that because I felt stuck and frustrated because I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted to um, put out there, but I thought that I was not putting in the right direction, or I didn't know really what was the difference between my core, my goals, and my visions. And I need someone to guide me with that. So we brainstormed, and I think one example of the service is that you make questions to direct me. No, because it's kind of like you're not going to give me answers, but you direct me to find the right answers of what I'm looking for. And I see, because the thing is, you need to comprehend. If you
Mhm.
don't comprehend, you cannot get there. And I was feeling stuck on that point that I was not comprehending my phases and what I need to think about.
Mhm.
And I think just that talk, it initiated a whole can of worms for me. I did change my logo this week. Um,
Nice.
but it is still a lot of work to do. I still have to change some things. And you did give me some tips on my website. You did do that, which I'm working on. And so it's a little bit of things, but I think what was the most important with the call was having the clarity that I needed to be
Mhm.
unstuck. But I still have work to do, as I said. I still have to think about, I still have to write my goals. I still have to think clearly of my goals. But I also had a lot of fun ideas after we talked. And I got actually inspired again because I was a little frustrated and down. So it kind of revamps you and makes you like,
Mhm.
wow, this is really what I want for people. And this is what people can find uh, with my art. And I think that is so important because sometimes we feel lost. And because we feel lost, we can feel frustrated. And then frustration gets you to giving up on things.
And ultimately, you had all the answers.
Yeah.
Like I just redirected what you
Yes.
were saying,
Yes.
and you found the answers. Like I did. Like it was not like a bunny out of a hat here. Like here's all your all
Yeah.
your solutions. Like
Yeah.
you
And it's
you had
important to
that.
say to people, the profession is not going to give you what you need to do, right? The profession is going to
Yeah,
guide you,
that's it.
but the answers are yours. You have to reflect on it, right? You have to think about what you want, what is your mission. Uh, but the guidance is so important because also discussed in depth about the mission, the core. And that's what we need. I needed someone to brainstorm that with me. And I think that if you're feeling stuck, like I was, and if you don't even know how to start, okay, I try to work by myself in this triangle and it's getting too hard. I think it's worth it to pay this call with Izzy or whoever you want, but it's worth it to pay for someone to direct you and to help you, give you a hand to see what you already have. Because sometimes we don't see it. It's like, going to the psychologist, which I do. The psychologist is not going to tell you what to do. Actually, most of the time you are speaking. Why? Because at least I find that on my sessions. More I speak, I end up finding the solutions. Because I say to her, oh, wait, I just have an aha moment. Maybe it was because I was feeling this way because of that. And she's like, bingo, right? She waits for you. She just give you questions, right? She just give you questions and let you just talk, and you're going to end up finding yourself.
Yeah.
But the questions that she makes are things I never thought about. And that's what happened when I did the branding meeting, is that we get stuck. We get stuck and we don't think about the questions that we need. Right?
That's it. I think that it's when you get stuck, and I mean, I went through this myself. Like, it's just like, okay, like I need to make money right now, and it's like fast, right? And it's just like you're in this train, and this train is not stopping. But you know what? Sometimes this train needs fuel to go back on, or needs repair, or needs to get people up and bring new people back in. So it's important to have this retrospect.
Yeah. And I think one last misconception that I think I remember now before we finish is another misconception I think that is very common is people think that branding is also copywriting. Don't you think?
It's part of it. It's
because
like,
I think they don't understand that they are two different professionals sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they think, okay, you did my branding. You're not going to tell me what to put over there? No, that's the job of the copywriter if you want to pay one. To have the marketing words and how to make fancy words, right? Is that common? I don't know. I think it's common sometimes.
I mean, when people come to me for websites, like I tell them right away that they will need to provide copy, or if they don't, then I can provide like a copywriter for them, not provide, like they like bring in somebody else like on the project. And like, yeah, sometimes they will go like, oh, okay, it's not part of the website. I'm like, no. And it's funny because I had a client recently, and I did put him in touch with like a copywriter. And then I'm like, okay, so pictures, like, I can make some graphics for you, but like I only pictures about your business. There's only so many stock that we can use. And he's like, okay. Then he gave me his headshots, but I'm like, your headshot is not you working. So like, I can only use that in one spot. Okay, fine. Like, let me send you links of like stock photography that we could use. I think he was afraid because like a website uses a lot of pictures, obviously, but he got 20 links to look at.
That is another thing that is important, right? Like whatever you do, to have pictures of you actually creating the thing.
Yeah. And like, I'm guilty for that. I don't have pictures of me actually creating or, in a session. I don't like to be candidly photographed. I feel like I'm always making a face.
I think we but it's necessary.
It's important.
I hate when I see my pictures. I'm like, my neck doesn't look good. I'm always,
I get it. I think we're very hard on ourselves, and
yeah.
like
When
Instagram is also
people really are not thinking about my neck. They want to see what I'm painting. Yeah.
that's it exactly. But we're
Yeah.
like, I was making a reel actually before this podcast, and I think I started it like 27 times because I didn't like
The
the
angle.
angle of my chin. So like,
I know. As women, we are very hard on ourselves.
we are
But
very hard on
it
ourselves.
is important to know the difference. The copywriter is the person that is going to help you with your wording. After you know all that we talked about, and you have your website, you know, maybe you did a package and you have a logo. You do have some graphics that you created. You do have your colors, your fonts, and all that. But the copywriter then can take all that. You can take all that to copywriter. This is my core. This is my mission, and he can put
Yeah,
that in in a copywriting way that will attract people. And
that's it.
which is hard. It's very
It's
hard.
hard,
It is hard.
specifically when you're too close. Yeah,
Copywriting sucks.
it
Um,
does.
but we just wanted
Like,
to clarify that, it's not the same thing. And I think many people confuse that, especially when you're doing a whole service for branding. Let's recap a little bit. So, to have a good branding or to start thinking about a good branding, we need to know our core,
core purpose, yes.
our mission,
Hmm.
and our goals
And the vision. So
and
mission,
the vision.
vision. Yeah. Core purpose is the first thing. After that, the mission and vision will support the core purpose. And then the goals will support the mission and vision.
Mhm. And then we can think about how we're going to spread that on our social media, on our website, and create our branding, basically.
I think it's a good start. There's a lot more that goes into it. Like, I would say that this is definitely going to give you a good direction on what you want to do. The next thing, and maybe that's a subject for another day, but it would be how to differentiate, which is
Yes,
like a whole new topic.
it's so hard and so
It
hard.
is
That
hard.
is a hard thing.
Mhm.
Izzy, I think we're gonna have to talk again because there's so many things about branding, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
I actually like a lot this topic. It's a topic that I became very fond about. It's very fascinating, I think,
It
um,
is.
to kind of learn about how you put your message out there because it's not just about talking. You really have to give a little bit of a thought about it, what you really want and how you want to touch people. I think that is
That's it.
important. Yeah.
It's creating a space for your audience. I think that's the way I see it. How do you pull them in so the audience becomes your family almost?
Mhm. So if people go to your personal IG here that I have, but I'll put also when I have the notes, I'll put your other one and they can check your work, check what you do. And also, as I said, you also have calls. Don't feel intimidating. Think you just have to do a whole package of things. Just
Yeah.
message it Izzy and see how she can help you. Um, you you will not be disappointed. Izzy, thank you so much. I
My pleasure.
appreciate you talking about this. It's so, so good. And I hope we'll come back one day and we could go deeper about some things. And again, I'll put the link, everyone, for the 2 talks that she did with us on the art talk, because you're going to want to have pen and paper on that one. And follow her. And again, if you have any questions or if you want a personal question, just message her and she'll be able to help you and tailor everything to what you need. I think it's very worth it. So
Thank you
thank
for
you,
saying that.
Izzy. I see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me. Hope you enjoyed this chat, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I appreciate you listening to the podcast all the way here to the end.
And I would like to thank you so much. And to help us spread the word about the podcast, you can share on Instagram and tag me. I would love to share as well. And take a screenshot and tell me what you're doing while you're listening to the podcast. Or leave us a review on Apple Podcast. We really appreciate if you could do that. It really helps spread the word about the podcast. I will talk to you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Check episode notes at 2 worldart.com/blog. Connect with Jana on Instagram at Jana_2worlds. And make sure to receive our artful insights by signing up at bit.ly/join2worldsart.